Welcome to the 21st Common Session of Sunoikis Digital Classics 2017. This session is a special one because it's a joint session with the Digital Classicist Seminar in London at the Institute of Classical Studies. This means that our guests today are in London with Gabriel Bodar and other guests and listeners of the Digital Classicist Seminar. And today the session is about historical GIS of Southeastern Europe, and our guests are Dimitar Iliev, Maria Baramova, and Grigor Boykov from the University of Sofia. So they are presenting from London. The session today lasts 1 hour. I think we can start. So welcome to our guests and to the community in London, to the Digital Classicist Seminar community in London. So I think you can start presenting. The only thing you have to unmute yourself. Starting.
Thank you very much for coming here, everyone. And first of all, I would like to express our special thanks to the organizers here in London and, of course, in Leipzig. And special thanks to Gabriel Bodar. Gabi, thank you for inviting us here in Sofia. Today we will try to, London, sorry. Today I'll try to present briefly the outlines of the concept of our historical GIS project, which we started as a research team several years ago, 2015. At Sofia University with the academic and financial support of Center of Excellence in the Humanities, alma mater. Here, short overview of main topics which we will present you today. After this overview, which try to present you, my colleagues Dimitar and Grigor will give you a detailed picture of some research and methodological issues and problems of collecting and linking data of history of Southeastern Europe. Especially in its first stage, which we call stage trace. The project of History of Southeastern Europe is a multidisciplinary research project of team of historians, archaeologists, classical philologists, geographers, urbanists, GIS, and IT specialists from Sofia University. University works on developing this platform. As a first stage, as I already mentioned, is focused on Thrace region and covers a chronological frame from the antiquity up to the First World War. This is our team, the main core of our team. There are several research groups in history, and of course GIS specialists, IT, and some, and of course the advisory boards of the project. As you can see, every period has a special group of researchers, and also we have a special part of epigraphy and numismatic. On the first methodological problems which we faced and we should solve was the definition of the historical geographic meaning of trace. Although the term trace was variable meaning within the frame, every single period represented in the project defines its geographic borders corresponding to the specific geographic, political, and cultural sense. A database has been developed for analysis, visualization, and of historical and geographical data, such as you can see later here of roads and communication, military structure, economy, historical toponymy, settlement network, religious sites, political and administrative structure, and last then this year was this, we're trying to make some digital terrain model and orthophoto. I'll show you a short demo version of this ancient Kabyle in Thrace. Coming back to the term trace, For example, in pre-Roman time, Thrace refers to the lands inhabited by the numerous Thracian tribes encompassing the territories between the Carpathian Mountain to the Aegean coast and Strymon River to the Black Sea, inclusive the northwestern parts of Asia Minor. For the project purpose, to build a comparative and mostly full database of this region was limited at this stage to the land lying on the south of the Staropoenachiem's mountain. Most clear, of course, is the situation of the Roman period, which covers the borders of the Roman province of Thrace in its borders of the 3rd century. The late antiquity and the medieval period, and also Grigor will tell you about the Ottoman period, concentrated in the territory southern of Staropoenachiemos. And the same situation is this last so-called modern period, from the mid-19th century until the First World War, and it covers mostly the territory of present southern and southeastern Bulgaria. Because of the huge chronological scope, the data structure is based in the different periods on narrative sources, archival documents, archaeological data, field research, and we are collecting information from historical maps, which we're trying to use, such as a base map, or we're collecting only information of these historical maps. Once again, Grigor show you this from Ottoman maps, for example. The historical data is created as a number of tables, including objects, coordinates. The tables are imported in ArcGIS ArcMap and converted in shapefile format. The basic attributive table contains several fields, which obligatory fields, as you can see here. I'm not sure you can see it, but anyway, I tried to. As such as, of course, name, historical name, both in Latin and Bulgarian version, name in the sources, which we find, which we trying to put in the original form, the administrative unit of the object or the site, its category and type, certainty, uncertainty of the location and of the name or of the site. After processing this data is stored in the following structure: the main layers, of course, settlement networks, for example, roads and communication, military structure, and so on. And of course, accordingly, so for example, fortress, settlement network, city, towns, villages, or military divisions, the subcategory such as fortresses, and so on and so on. The GIS platform is based on, as I already mentioned, on ArcGIS software, for which the Software University received a special license for research purposes. But of course, all historical data is should be open and for sharing and linking after we started this online application. So you can see here the general structure, to both history and general geography domain of the structure. And of course, all the researchers are working on desktop application, which again for main geography domain and such as you can see here, and of course the history domain for analysis and research purposes. And all these shape files we're putting on the online application, the database. And perhaps the most interesting part of the online application, which will present you and demonstrate its, at the moment, demo version after my colleagues finish with their presentations. I'm showing you here only a screenshot, shots of its outlook and the base map in layers, with of course layer control and several tools for controlling the information. After that, I show you the presentation, of course, the online application. And as I already mentioned, the last thing which I would finish my presentation at the moment before this demonstrates the application is a short presentation of the digital terrain of model ancient Kabyle, which we done, and I try to. Sorry. Of course, it's only here a short video, but you can see on the application the real 3D model of the archaeological site. Our colleagues from the GIS team are working on both on ancient Kabyle and at the moment of ancient Markelis archaeological sites in southeastern part of Bulgaria. The late antiquity sites which we integrate in the system in the next week. Thank you at the moment for your attention, and after my colleagues I will show you the online application itself. Okay, Nico.
Thank you, Maria. Now I'll open another presentation. We will now focus on some particular issues about the different periods and the different types of monuments that we. Okay, is this, yeah? Does it?
Okay, I think there is a technical problem. We wait for our guests in London to join again the session. I apologize for that. So from London, they are telling me that they are trying to fix the problem. Maybe it's the Wi-Fi. So I apologize for that. We have to wait for a while. Every week we have a new technical problem, but we will try to solve it. Okay, you're back.
Okay, sorry, it kicked us out of the Hangout for some reason.
No problem.
I'm going to share my screen, and yes, can you see it now?
Yes, it works.
Okay.
Oops, you are again frozen. The problem is that when you start screen sharing,
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello? Okay.
And then just switch back to the presentation.
Okay, so maybe now just to err on the safe side or not.
Okay.
Okay, well, can you hear me? No, you don't seem to.
Yes.
Yes, okay. We'll try this way because it kicks me out every time I do full screen. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah?
Yes.
So, the ancient inscriptions, as I told you, are about 350, 4,000 and counting, and there are more than 1,000 Latin inscriptions, some of which are published, some of which are not published, some of which are published, but that doesn't matter because they're very hard to come by and not in a very published not in a very good way. So the main epigraphic corpora that we have for the Greek and Latin inscriptions from Bulgaria, from which material will be excerpted to be included in the GIS model, are three. The Inscriptiones Graecae in Bulgaria Reperte, which is the main epigraphical corpus of ancient Greek inscriptions to be found in Bulgaria. It's 5 volumes. It was edited by our great epigrapher Georgi Mikhailov. We have a small, indeed very small corpus of Latin inscriptions to be found in Bulgaria, which is the corpus of Latin inscriptions is published only partly. A very small part of what has been found so far is published, and it was published posthumously of its editor, Boris Gerov, so it was not done very well, and there's still a lot of material collected that has to be published. And then for the inscriptions from late antiquity, both Greek and Latin, we have the collection of Veselin Besheviev, spät griechische und spät lateinische Inschriften aus Bulgarien, which covers the period from roughly from 4th century CE until 6th century CE, some of them even spanning through early Middle Ages. And we have a lot of inscriptions which are not published and which are being discovered and which are now objects of PhD theses or excavations and research and things like that. And our epigraphic team, which is now incorporated in the complex work of the GIS project, tries to concentrate on precisely on these inscriptions, which are important, but are very hard to come by, are not very well published, or there are new data which require corrections of what we previously had known about these inscriptions, their content, their location, and so on and so forth. So the periods in the territory, you see, as Maria told you, that the notion of Thrace, which is the territory we are trying to concentrate now on the first stage of our GIS project, varies from period to period. Here you see a version of the boundaries of Thrace, which is roughly end of the first, beginning of the 2nd century AD, but some other territories might be included or excluded depending on the period. Some of which are not necessarily in today's Bulgaria. We try to do whatever we can with the data that we don't have at our disposal at our national repositories and so on. And there are a great part of the Greek inscriptions and virtually none of the Latin inscriptions, but a great part of the Greek inscriptions are published online as part of the various databases, such as the Packard Humanities Institute, the Epigraphic Datenbank Heidelberg, and things like that. And it's currently also in a stage of preparation. We have our own project for an online database for Greek inscriptions from Bulgaria, the Telemon project. It is due to be accomplished, at least at its first stage, by the end of this year also. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to integrate the records that we will have on this Telemon site together with everything else that we can discover being published online, and link them to the map where you will see the exact location of the monument, and vice versa. On the Telemon page, you will be able to have embedded the exact location on the map of the GIS of the respective inscription. The ancient objects, which are divided into two basic periods, pre-Roman and Roman. The pre-Roman encompassing everything from Chalcolithic Thrace prehistory up to Roman times, the times of the Emperor Claudius, which created the Roman province of Thrace, and also the later, the Roman period, including the late Antiquity period, encompass things like settlements, roads, sanctuaries and necropolis, villas, coin hoards, inscriptions, of which I'm talking now, and several other objects, for example, mines and quarries, imperial residences, and things like that, which are do not occur that often, but which do exist in the database as options. Some of the objects are natural. We also try to give the names, present the toponymy of the natural objects, such as rivers. Now we're trying to figure out if we can also geolocate mountains, which is a tad harder because we have to draw a polygon having the precise geospatial data for that, which is not that, but and of course the cultural, which is our man-made object, which is our main focus. And there are objects that could bear name and that could relate to some name mentioned in a historical source, and objects which are basically nameless, such as the inscriptions. We don't have the inscription mentioned as an object outside of its context of finding and description. You can see here, I don't know how well you can see, but this is an example of our river names in the ancient world, which was done by Yulia Tsvetkova. We're doing more now, and we're trying to figure out the mountains, how to do them. And this is an example. You will see more when Maria demonstrates the online application. This is an example of a part of the sanctuary and necropolis network. Sanctuary and necropolis, sanctuaries and necropolis which are to be found in Roman Thrace, 1st to 3rd centuries AD, done mainly by Ivan Velchev. And we also have the road network, of course. The first thing that our colleagues that are dealing with Roman roads, Ivan Lozanov mainly, the first thing they did is they geolocated the mansiones, the stations along the roads. Here you see Via Diagonalis. Here you see a part of Via Egnatia. Up to here, I think now they've done it even further to the west. You see Via Pontica, and now they're trying to outline the route of the road itself with more or less certainty. There are a lot of mansiones, so you can see that in this respect, this work is not hypothetical. This doesn't hold true for all the roads from all the periods. And as far as the inscription goes, I told you a little earlier about objects on the map that do have relations to a certain name mentioned in the source documents, and objects which do not. Here you see an example of something which is very common at this period in our lands. Names which we cannot identify, the actual settlement of which we cannot identify for certainty. There are some ghost towns that tend to move around according to the current state of research that has been done on this. This is the case. A case in point is the so-called Heraclea Sintica, which was thought to be first somewhere in the northwestern part of Greece, then in the southwestern corner of Bulgaria. In 2003, it was identified for sure when an inscription was found at the site which mentioned the Herakleotaron Civitas. So we knew for sure where we had to locate this, and excavations are going on, and even new inscriptions are popping out every new archaeological season. Here you can see the colleagues from the Archaeological Institute, Ludmila Galinsky and Nikolai Sharankov, who is my colleague in the epigraphy group of the GIS project. Actually, the epigraphy group consists of me and him. This is it. Not to make many people deal with this, but this is due to be overcome, I hope. And there are no such things as we come for the inscription. The inscription is there, and if you know it is there, it is there. We don't have any ghost inscription, which we knew that it was there, but it was later removed, and they have no relation whatsoever to any name mentioned in the sources. We do know about inscriptions which are now lost, but now we're trying to concentrate on the most important ones, which are preserved, and which are preserved which are found in situ, and we know for sure where they are found. There are some inscriptions which tend to move around. Actually, when you describe an inscription, you have three local points which you can point to. The place of finding. In our case, for example, a great many inscriptions were found in the ancient Nicopolis Adistrum, which is today's village of Nikiup, near the town of Veliko Tarnovo. A lot of them were actually not found on the spot in Nikiup. They were found in the medieval Bulgarian capital of Veliko Tarnovo, which should be somewhere here, but it's not on this map because it falls out of our period and our territorial range. And they were found being reused as decorations, for example, for the royal baths. It's very nice to have a Greek inscription in the baths. Probably the medieval kings like that. And now there are at the Archaeological Museum in Sofia, in the ancient Tulpia Serdica, which you can see on the map. So there are at least 3 points on the map to which you can point concerning the whereabouts of an inscription. But for now we're only interested in these inscriptions which are sure to be proven to have be found on to have their provenance from this or that place, or have been found in situ. And the last thing I will turn your attention to is that when dealing with such small, so to say, monuments, such small objects as the inscriptions, you have to work on a smaller scale. You have to zoom in very deeply into the map. For example, the colleague Nikolai Sharankov has geolocated some 100 of inscriptions inside the old city of Philippopolis. And when you zoom out of the map, they'll look just very crammed in just one place, but it is extremely important concerning the history of the city and the history of its vicinities, its territory, if we are able, and in many cases we are able, to locate them precisely within the borders of the city. And that's it for now from me. Now I give the word to Grigor, who will tell you more about the Ottoman period.
Yeah, thank you very much. But I would like somebody to help me with this setting the system right.
Okay, now I'll close mine.
Yeah.
Is everything okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there you go.
But I don't open it full screen. All right. Okay.
Could you pick us out again?
Yeah. I see we're running out of time, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. So what I'll be doing today is rather not presenting the results. I'll present some results, and I'm the problem person. I also bring problems to you. So hopefully I get a very good audience so that we get some solutions to these problems. If we look at the Ottoman group, basically consists of a bunch of people who deal with Ottoman history, and they were dragged into this digital project. I would say not all of them are really that enthusiastic, but at least they were good in processing data. So we could feed some data into the system. What I can say roughly, this is the territorial coverage that you see. We already spoke about that, and B, the time span of the so-called Ottoman period basically stretches from late 14th century up to 1870s or so. But if you want to be more specific, rather it begins in the 15th century, because we have very, very few sources for the 14th century. So roughly 15th century onward. So if there are several objectives that the Ottoman group tries to achieve, they fall in the general framework of the project, but these are the objectives that the Ottoman group is specifically focused on. So we try to recreate as reliable as possible settlement network for the area of study. We try to look into the population data in an as detailed manner as possible. Then we look for the road network in the area, try to establish the administrative borders that were once in situ, which is a very tricky business. Then take a look on the type of land holding. In the Ottoman Empire, land holding would vary depending on whether that could be a sort of private property owned by somebody or by a foundation. It could be state property, has been allocated to somebody for his service, and that would matter too. And probably production should fall here. So we look at we intend to look at the average production of those villages over time and see the changes in patterns of crops and so on. And finally, we would like to look at the architecture and try to establish some patterns and whether all this would make sense with when architecture is also brought into the picture. The one that is standing, I would say, and the one that is gone and that we have information about. Anyway, so here is Ottoman period. We already opened this back in the other room. It differs greatly from everything that classes know. It differs greatly from medieval period. Now we face a rather different situation. We have a lot of sources. We have tons of sources, massive data set that awaits discovery. It's not been processed yet. All these precious Ottoman materials, primary sources sit in the archives. And I already mentioned that people would normally ask me, which gazetteer you used to get these sources? And do you reference your villages? I say, well, none, because we don't have an Ottoman gazetteer. It doesn't exist. It never existed. And this is, as you can imagine, a major problem when you want to put a settlement somewhere in the space. On top of that, we don't have even a reliable modern academic atlas of the Ottoman Empire that could have served the needs that for instance, serve for other projects that we don't have even the luxury to do that. So basically, we're faced in a situation that we have masses of sources that are very detailed. You can take it to the last individual and examine the profession of the individual. You can examine, even if you wish to, individual economy of the person. So it is very, very detailed scale. The problem is how to transfer these records on the map and then geospatially analyze them, since we don't know where these locations are. Well, there's one apparent solution is map mining. And we already mentioned that we're map mining the Ottoman maps. We don't do that because there's nobody, to the best of my knowledge, there's nobody who knows what is the projection of the Ottoman maps. So we have 19th century excellent materials, or excellent maps, and I've talked to colleagues in Turkey, I've talked to colleagues in Bulgaria, everybody says, oh, these are excellent maps, let's geo-reference them. What's their projection? Nobody knows. So we still work on that, and probably one day I know this will be solved, but for the moment is not solved. What we have for the moment is an excellent 1878 Russian military map that is extremely detailed and is an excellent source. And then we have the Austrian military map. In the case, this is 1911 or so, was printed, but the data was collected much earlier. So what we tried to do is basically harvest the settlements that we could and link the data that comes from the primary sources to actually, that is something related to space and can be located. So once you have a identified settlement, you can attribute a lot, and we do attribute a lot of metadata to it. In the case, what we do is we do collect statistics on confessional differences, whether these are Muslims, whether these are Christians. It cannot go too far. It cannot go on the national basis because Ottomans would not care about that. They would care whether somebody is a Muslim or Christian or a Jew or an Armenian. That would also go, or a Gypsy. And these are the main confessions used by the Ottoman administrative financial system. But on the other hand, you can also break it down to a lot of occupations if you want, and we tend to identify several of the occupations that we consider important. These are the clergymen, of course, and several other professions. Finally, we come to population totals for each individual village, and then eventually this could come to something meaningful as analysis. The second point that I wanted to raise, these are the roads. Now, we normally, I put this this screenshot on purpose. You're all familiar with Orbis. This is an excellent tool. However, there's a slight problem with it. If you would like to go from Philippopolis to Philippi and use the data that actually Orbis uses, we'll take it to Perinthus for 800 kilometers. But we're certainly aware that there were at least 3 major roads crossing the Rhodan Mountains throughout the historical period, in the Roman period too. So apparently this is a data failure, so they will probably certainly use the main roads only. And when you run an analysis based on the main roads only, you tend to get sort of results of this sort. So what we thought is a better idea is that we also try to get from the maps that we do reference the secondary, and probably if we manage the third range roads, then when you have those roads classified and located on the map, one can run a more meaningful analysis and then look for all other research questions that can come to. So secondary roads, in my mind, are crucially important. What normally people do is just go for the main road, and it looks very nice, and you can estimate all these things, but very often could be misleading in terms of results if you want to work on that. Now, very briefly, is what I said. We're trying to work on and establish the internal administrative boundaries of what was the province under study. So this is a very tricky business, if not impossible. But this is what a lot of people care about in the world when people work on such stuff. And this is something that is very difficult to provide because nobody knows where actually the border in the 15th century ran. If anybody in the 15th century knew where the border ran at all. So what we thought could be this sort of solution, and if you have a better suggestion, I'd gladly take it, but what we thought could be a workable solution for the moment is to take the lands of the current villages as polygons, and since we know to which area in the case or which district they belonged in the 15th century, to assign them and combine them in larger units, and this is how one can get the larger polygons. And I know one immediately would stand up and say, this is inaccurate. And I know it's inaccurate, but this is the best, the best place where we can take it. And I don't, for the moment, I cannot really suggest any better solution. So these are rough, more or less representative. That would cover the entire country. This is 1530 population density heat map of the kind. So I'm sorry, wrong button. So this one here is just a slight example of looking into using the same methodology to try to trace the different types of land holding. So for instance, these are the lands that are owned by the private pious foundations, the Vakıf in Arabic or Vakıf in Turkish. So when one maps them down and combines them with all sorts of other data, they turn into a meaningful thing. And if we try to wrap it up and look at the main research questions that we have in mind in our group, actually is to try to look into establish a reliable settlement network, but primarily try to look into the transition periods. So see what happens if we have medieval data, see how well it matches with Ottoman data, early Ottoman data, and then see what happens once the Ottoman Empire is gone. Since we have the last Ottoman censuses and compare them with the early modern Bulgarian censuses, see what comes out, and Greek and Turkish census, and so on. B is try to look into the population density and the fluctuation. So in what period, what parts of the area were more densely populated, and try to look for an explanation. Try to look for concentration of different confessions, why the Bulgarians would tend to live more in large numbers over there and not over there. There are all sorts of processes involved, like colonization, migration, internal migration, or people coming from Asia Minor, and so on. Try to map out those processes and analyze them in a more elaborate way. As I said, the relationship between the roads and the network, the settlement network, seems to me very important. So once the primary and the secondary roads are set on the map, I'm pretty sure we'll see the relationship between some villages turning very prosperous over time and others less prosperous, and we'll try to run a spatial analysis and see those who sit within a distance of 5 to 10 kilometers of a major road, how well they're doing, and so on. And finally, again, what's in our agenda right now is to look at into the type of land holding and try to specify, was it better to live in a land that was owned by a private foundation, or was it better to live in a land that was owned by the state, and so on. I think you basically more or less get the picture, so I'm going to take your questions. Thank you very much. And probably I turn it back to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then just a short presentation of the system itself, the online application. Okay. Okay. It's of course a demo version, and we are still working on it. Here you can see our start all data which we have at the moment. As you see, it's still in process, but we have enough to present anyway. Okay, and then I'll start with the pre-Roman period to show you some of the highlights. As you can see, yeah, I'm sorry, not everything is at the moment in English, but anyway, the first is the settlement. Sorry, it's the settlement and the pre-Roman settlement network. As you can see, every object has, again, as I already told you, here is both Bulgarian and English, name, historical name of Helis, the modern name at northeastern of Bulgaria is Baramova. And of course, geographic data. Its identification, as you can see, is not so certain. And of course, some other, of course, the type is city or town, and the author of Dr. Yulia Tsvetkova. Again, of course, probably is not the best example because you can already. Here again, another site. As you can see, the type here is emporium. It's not a city. There's a different classification of this pre-Roman and Roman settlement network. Again, here the religious sites in the pre-Roman periods. Again, name, if there's some historical name, of course, it's marked, but if not, it's and of course here sanctuary is a type. It's in the category culture, religious sites and cults. It's interesting. Some of course, excavation, investigation type, and if there's some information about the researchers and the archaeologists. Here's the name of the archaeologists who made the excavations, and again, the author and so on. As already told you, we have started not only epigraphic but also numismatic data to getting numismatic data. Here are the main and the colleague of who is working on this numismatic data, Dr. Iliev, is working together with the colleagues in Berlin on this huge project of numismatic with Dr. Ulrike Petter in Berlin. And again, its type, it's Sorry, but it's not all. Everything should be in English, but I'm not sure why. Not really sorry. Anyway, here is interesting because it's state 8 in Granito. There's 8 coins. 2 of Bayon, and I'm not sure what this is, but
The provenance of coins.
yeah, but I'm not sure. It's not only. It's only part in Bulgarian and part in English. I'm sorry. It should be, but something is in the system. So, of course, you can see this whole information in the attribute table here with the whole information, and perhaps it's better to open this because here we have whole information. Okay, the problem is here from the attribute table. I'm not sure why, but it's only part of English and part of Bulgarian. It should be corrected, sorry. And of course, this is the layers. Here the base map. We integrate only just for the demonstration, but after that we'll put all these maps as a base maps with, if it's possible, is in our card, extraction militaire. You can see here the objects on it. Perhaps. And the Ottoman period, for example, here you can see Kapitan Petko Voivoda, and it's in the Duganovo. Is this correct? Okay, it's correct. The name. Here, SREM is the same, and as you can see, it's SREM, the historical name is the same in the Ottoman period. Okay. Some tools, which is useful only for here, for example, we can make, for example, we need to see all population, for example, 300, and from this population, for example, 100 of Muslims. And can you see here the okay, you can see these are the settlements with hundreds of Muslims. Of course, here's more, but and of course, tools for sharing, for creating objects, and so on. Some for this popular nowadays tool for comparing periods. Okay. So can see this in because the medieval periods, I checked only the last period.
Can I have a word here?
Yeah, of course.
No, so these are the late medieval ones. And the yellow ones are the Ottoman settlements, and the great majority of them are Muslim settlements. So it doesn't take one to be a genius to see that they settle on the empty spot. So we don't have any information about any medieval settlement in this period, 12th to 14th century, in this particular spot. And what the incidents in the Ottoman sources would show newly established Turkish villages for migrants from Asia Minor. So, I like this one.
Yeah. And yeah, if we have questions, of course, we can answer. Thank you.
Okay. Monica, are you?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do you want to ask any questions or make any closing comments on?
I don't know if our guests
You guys will be in front of the screen. We can then ask questions in the room if you want. If there's no questions.
Maybe sit it over here. Just have the chair.
Was everything clear? I was a bit worried about how we managed to share this. I hope that you got the idea.
Well, maybe I can ask a question. Maybe I lost something at the beginning. We had technical issues, but I have a question about the Pleiades. Are you using Pleiades IDs? Are you contributing to this gazetteer or not?
I think it's about the IDs of the place names.
Exactly. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, as far as the ancient period goes, a lot of the place names are already listed into some gazetteer, and there is an option that you link, you give links to what is already available as gazetteers, as lists of objects and artifacts, similar to what, for example, the Arachne network of the German Archaeological Institute has. There is an option where you can link to all these data already available. So as far as the ancient period goes, I think that a lot of things are already can already be connected to things which exist in the gazetteers. About the Ottoman period, I don't know if there are some new things that can. Well, we don't have any gazetteers for the Ottoman period to start with, but probably there are some new settlements which were previously unknown at all.
Well, I mean, as I said, there's no really running gazetteer, but there's been an idea for 2 years or so for creating an Ottoman gazetteer that has been run by a group of scholars from some of them from the US, some from Europe. So 2 years ago in the Center for Advanced Studies in Princeton. So we came to the idea that this is badly needed. That is progressing in a way. The general decision is this will be integrated into Pleiades. So that is already communicated to Pleiades people, and Tom Iliev was at the meeting anyway, so they all agreed and see it as a good idea. The problem is somebody needs to feed data into that. And this is where we're stuck basically, and we see all these people in July, the congresses that we have in Sofia. So we discussed how this idea will develop, because it involves a lot of labor, and there's nothing really ready as data sets, and we have to create them. And I have no ready answer for that for the moment.
Okay, I'm not an expert of this field, but for the Ottoman, the period in general, here in Leipzig, we have Maxim Romanov working on...
Yeah, Maxim is part of that.
Okay, you know him, of course. Okay, that's it. I don't have to add anything. Okay, good.
All right.
And does anyone else here have any questions? Again, you might have to repeat the question for the viewer here. But...
Yeah, we will.
I wanted to ask if this is one project or many projects which talk to one another via a map.
Okay, we started, I know what you mean, and you're absolutely correct. As we started, we didn't have an idea what huge thing is this. And at the moment we're trying to put it all together. And of course it's one project, but if you can see, it's there are several methodological problems in every period, and this is the idea, how can we put this together to make this diachronic section in the periods from antiquity to look at this development in the Southeastern Europe from the beginning to, yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it's more helpful to think about it as a cluster, like thinking about the Trinity, same idea.
Well, my opinion would be that this is at the same time one project that unites many separate projects, and everybody is after his or her own agenda in this project. I mean, the problem is that we find enough common objects to study, because the bunch of archaeologists among us are the talented people, but they would like to have a layer on horseshoes, for instance. I don't want to have a layer on horseshoes in the Ottoman period, because they make no sense to me. So we have to compromise at some point. For instance, for the Ottoman inscriptions, that sits somewhere in the agenda, in God knows when, in the future. That would be a very nice thing to add. But for the moment, we don't do the inscriptions.
Actually, yeah, you're right. But we have this architectural tools in the medieval period in the database. They are not still visualized, because it should be something like. But if you need this from the database, it could be linked for sharing and for some shape files only for this, for example, agricultural tools in the trace in the region of for example, Karnobat. And we have this data in the database. I can't show you because it's not in the online application, because it's not possible to put everything in this online application and to have one project at the end.
One of the basic ideas, if I can compliment my colleagues, is that the greatest things will be to see how things change over time. And we even had this idea, we still have it, but I don't know how far we've gotten with it, to have a single time slider for all the periods, and to see how it all changes different objects, or well, probably everything at once would be too much, but different objects, say road network, settlement network, how it changes over time. So this kind of makes it one whole when you can trace the developments of different things, of different criteria over time. Well, the one problem I think we're still stuck with it is that for different periods you need to move with a different pace. For example, For prehistory, you have centuries when basically nothing happens. For modern history, you have census which repeats every 5 years and the data changes. So it's at one point it's one thing. It should be one thing. It should be presented as one thing because this is the most useful part of it to be able to do research. But at the other hand, it points huge methodological problems. But if we solve them, it will be something very, very, very valuable. I think.
The other issue you'll have with the time slider idea
Yeah.
is that you'll in part be visualizing the difference between the different parts of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes, that's true.
This is amazing. Agriculture implements disappear from Bulgaria.
And this is very, of course, it's a project. We have this slider actually, but I didn't want to show you because it's nothing too comparable to shown in the moment. It should be.
Yeah.
And that, as a tool, we have this on the online application, but
Probably if you allow me another point, when we started this project in 2015, was it?
yeah, 2015.
What we had in mind is actually all digital projects somewhat exclude Southeastern Europe and the Balkans. And we thought that it's a failure, you know. We should include the Balkans, we should incorporate the Balkans somehow. So our idea was, in a way, if we think big and we have a platform that can integrate other people's data sets, if we make it operable and offer it to people, so you can contribute your data, people would be willing to, and there are colleagues who already said that they will be willing to contribute their data sets. Make it operable, we come with our data.
Yeah,
I have a question about the example that you made about Heraklia, if
Yes.
I remember correctly, that was assumed to be in different places according
Yeah.
to different scholars, and then you found, the inscription that says, no, wait, this is the place. I was wondering if the association that was in the past in scholarship between, the former hypothesis of the location is kept even after you know for sure that those were the actual coordinates, because I think it would be important for the scholarship around that place to keep the
Yes.
track of where it was
yes,
believed to be before.
You have a good point, but I think that we first have to think how it would be visualized correctly, because already in one period we have too many objects of different sizes, shapes, and things like that. If we also try to put, so to say, shadow objects, we must find a way to distinguish them very sharply from everything else, because it gets all too confusing if you have everything in one point and you have two Herakleia Syntykas and two different points, and only one of that is real. The other one is what the scholars imagine it could do. It could be done, but in the long run, we have to think if we could allow this at first place, then how it should be done in the second place, because it's not very obvious. If you see a period with all the layers of different objects, you will just get lost. Too much data starts being it's beyond the point of diminishing returns. It's too much information. It's no information. No, you cannot make sense of it. But yes, it would be interesting to do this. Yes, you can. You can only include the settlement network. But yes.
If I may, in the medieval period, we have several such problems, and we try to put short notes in the attribute table to show this discussion in the literature, and they should be a very, very short note. But anyway, we have some the object with this information about this.
You have a bibliography and you have a degree of certainty, so you can trace who said that this was it, and who participated in the scholar discussion, and how they agreed or disagreed. There was bibliography, and then you also have this evaluation of how certain it is, both as location and as identification.
Any other questions, comments?
We have a question here
Okay.
from Stelios in
Oh, Stelios, hi.
Hi. Hello. Thank you. Do you hear me? Yes, now you hear me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation that takes Balkan into account, at least, on that last. I have more a remark than a question, but it can become a question, perhaps. I found very interesting the problem and the discussion about the administrative borders in the Ottoman period and the way you tried or you start solving this. For me, it is a clear case where something that we are used to think about it in a very definite and not fuzzy terms in our world was fuzzy and not definite at all. So it cries out for an application of something like the prototype theory, where you have a center and you have a peripheries of different distance, and you try to see if a cluster of objects belongs to which center is closer and where it belongs exactly. I would like to hear a little bit more about how you handle this and how you visualize the closeness of, let's say, a region to a center or to a certain set of borders.
Well, thank you for this question. It's very nice. What I can say, what I missed saying during my presentation is, well, this approach brought rather unexpected results because we are accustomed to think that the Ottoman, or at least this is what historiography teaches us, those important people from the past, that the Ottoman Empire actually throughout 15th, 16th, 17th century had a administrative division that is territorial administrative division. So what we basically discover is something that we already had a sense of, but now when you map those things out, it turns that this administrative division is rather military based, and there is some territorial distribution, but what was followed is military logic primarily, and one would make very little sense of territorial administrative division per se if you look this on the map. What I mean is the following. There were cases of villages that belong normally to District A that fall in the middle of the District B. And this could be a bordering district, but sometimes it might not even be a bordering district. So this is a problem. To my understanding, this is something that calls a revision of what we understand as territorial administrative division of the time. Now, back to your question, I assume you speak about the approach that was followed by people like Lex Berman and others. I have to say we haven't run this yet. What we rather simply try to link those polygons that we get with the village X with attribution Y to a certain district, but this is coming in the agenda, and then I'm in contact with Lex, and I very much would like to see what comes out when this is run. And yet again, I should put it very firmly, I don't think we will ever be able to establish with any real precision where the border fell. But to some satisfactory degree, I would say we're very close to.
At least to the degree that they themselves thought of a boundary as a thing, probably.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, shall we move to the more informal discussion?
From the line.
So thank you very much for this very, very interesting presentation. I have one ton more questions, so brace yourselves. And thank you, Monica, and see you next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for the technical issues. Thank you. Unfortunately, we can't follow you for the informal part, but enjoy it because I know that it's really great. So and the project is great. So Dimitar really is great, and so I'm happy to see these new things. Okay, so see you next week, and thank you for everything. So good night and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you again.